This podcast is brought to you by Cash App, the easy way to send, spend, save, and invest with friends. Does everyone in your friends group have a cash tag? That's money. And because Cash App connects you effortlessly with your friends and your finances, I would like to take this moment to shout out all the friends who are on Cash App. Shout out to the friend whose cash tag is learning to bake, and to the one who helped you take out your AC out of your window. A big shout out to the friend who owes you $38. Shout out to the friend who will only pay you back in Bitcoin, and the one who always suggests theme restaurants. And shout out to Tommy, who I love watching squirm every time I mention his love for the Denver Nuggets.
And the new one who recently started working in real estate and now says location, location all the time. Shout out to the friend who withholds repayment until you finally agree. We said Leo last time, so we're going to say Jay-Z is the greatest of all time. And the one who can't dance. Shout out to the friend who sends GIF reactions entirely too much for anyone's taste. And the one who thinks you're related. And to the friend who drew their cat on their custom cash card. Shout out to you, sir.
Cash App is the easy way for you and all your friends to enjoy sending, spending, saving, investing, splitting, tipping, donating, gifting, or just pressing buttons to look busy, all with the #1 finance app in the App Store. That's money, that's Cash App. Download Cash App from the App Store or Google Play Store today to create your own cash tag. Welcome to the Old Man of the Three with JJ Redick and Tommy Alter, presented by Cash App and brought to you by 342 Productions. This is episode 138, Frances Tiafoe and Mikal Bridges. Tommy, this is a very special episode for us. Frances is someone that we've wanted to get on the pod since his epic U.S. Open run to the semifinals this past August. This was a special conversation. Just a very thoughtful young athlete who is on the rise. Can't think of a better time for us to have him on the show.
And this was talked about a lot when he beat Nadal and when he got to the semifinals of the U.S. Open. But one of the crazier backstories of any professional athlete in sports right now in terms of what he's had to overcome to get to this place.
Yes, you can't hear his story and not think of grit and persistence and obsession, but also a little bit of serendipity. And we will get into that with Frances. And of course, we have one of our correspondents on this week's episode, Mikal Bridges of the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix, by the way, after this past weekend and another loss, sit at 16-12 right now. They're in fourth place in the Western Conference. They got off to a great start. They've been a little bit beset by injuries, Tommy. Chris Paul has missed a bunch of time. Devin Booker has missed the last couple games. Cam Johnson, of course, is out for an extended period of time with a knee injury. And their whole rhythm and mojo that we saw early on this season, that has completely shifted. And so is their odds of winning the NBA championship on DraftKings. That has shifted as well. They're currently at plus 1,100 to win the NBA championship. And they are at plus 475 to win the Western Conference. It's hard to judge this team until they're healthy.
But does it feel like a pretty good bet? It feels like this is a team. You're totally right. It's hard to judge them until they're healthy. And we don't know what we have with them, and them losing. And we're going to get into the Pelican stuff. We talked about it a bunch on Monday, but them losing twice to a really good Pelicans team is not necessarily representative of what the Suns are going to look like a month or two from now.
Of course, BI missed those games. Devin Booker missed the second game on Sunday with an injury, and then they had a follow-up loss after that. The Pelicans, though, we touched on them for an extended period of time in our weekly Old Man and the Three Things, which is available exclusively on Amazon Music. We spent about 10 minutes talking about them on Monday's show. It's fascinating how good this team has become so quickly, whether that has to do with the confidence they gained from their play-in wins last season, getting to the playoffs, and then a really hard-fought series against the Suns. And we're going to, by the way, with Mikal, we're going to touch on the little dust up at the end of the first game on Friday night after Zion's dunk. But this Pelicans team currently sitting tied for first place in the Western Conference. During the preseason, they had plus 4,000 odds to win the NBA Finals. They're currently at plus 1,800. I'm not going to lie, Tommy. I'm not going to lie. I got on the app earlier today, and I thought to myself, who do I love in the Western Conference? And you know who I love. I love the Grizzlies, and I love the Pelicans. The Grizzlies currently sitting at plus 1,600. I thought to myself, let's take a flyer a little bit of action on that. But the Pelicans to me are one of the deepest, strongest, most versatile teams in the NBA. We've talked about this with Larry Nance. They can play small. They can play big. With Jonas, they can play drop coverage. They can switch with Larry. Zion has been tremendous defensively. There's a lot to like with this Pelicans group.
So one question about the Pelicans I have for you that we did not talk about really on Monday is, where they can still grow from an upside potential. And the two things I wanted to mention, we talked a little bit about BI's injury. They said today he's going to be out for another 4 games at least. So he's probably going to be out for another week or 2. So obviously when he's back, that's one of the elite offensive players in the league you're adding to this unit. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was CJ in particular, because CJ, his scoring has been down and his shooting has been down, but you would guess, he's been a great professional since he joined the league. You would guess at some point he would revert back to his career averages. Do you think this team can get better offensively? As funny as it sounds, it's a top 5 offense right now, but do you feel like they have not necessarily reached their peak in terms of where they can be offensively?
I actually do, and I'm glad you brought up CJ and BI, because if you look at their offense and who they're going to play through, and especially in the last 7 to 8 games, particularly with Zion bringing the ball up the court much more frequently, driving the ball more frequently, like he's going to be the primary guy in the half court. I thought at the beginning of the season, some of it was that Zion was in and out of the lineup, BI in and out of the lineup. The pecking order sort of hadn't been figured out with that team, and that group that finished last year's playoffs had to figure out how to play with Zion. He got off to a little bit of a slow start, and now you can sort of make an argument that Zion is an MVP candidate, right? We brought this up on Monday when we talked about MVPs, and you are a proponent that winning matters, and what Zion is doing, especially on both ends of the floor, is impacting winning. He's currently at plus 2,000 odds. 5% of all bets on Zion to win MVP are on Zion. That's 7th overall. So still a little bit of wiggle room for him to sort of improve his odds. I think he's outside the top tier in that. But for this Pelicans team, yes, they have to figure out that pecking order, especially once BI gets back, and he's got to adjust now like he did 2 years ago with Stan Van Gundy when Stan realized point Zion is a real thing. BI had to adjust to that, right? And so the three of them figuring out how to all play together, take their turns, know when it's their time to be the primary guy, that's a big component, Tommy, of their offense improving even more.
I have another Zion question for you. We talked about point Zion a little bit on Monday, but Chris Herring from Sports Illustrated wrote a great thing about the Pels this week. He emphasized Zion playing center way more than he has in the past, but then he also wrote about the most prolific players in the league at creating on-ball advantages. And right now Zion is number 1. It's Zion, Giannis, Joe, and Ja, and Zion's number 1 by a pretty decent margin. I was watching the Jazz game last night. There was a play in the second quarter where Walker Kessler, he's ISO'd on Walker Kessler, and he basically just bullies him and just dunks right over him. You've played with him. You've practiced with him. You've played with him. What are defenders supposed to do when you have him, when he's playing like this and he's ISOing you? Like, what exactly are you supposed to do?
I love when you ask this question.
Size?
There's a reason Zion Williamson is one of the best players in the world. There's nothing you fucking can do, Tommy, one-on-one. You know this. It's like, what are you going to do with Jason? One-on-one, not a lot. It's up to that secondary defender.
Fine. I mean, that's fine. But that's fine. But you're a competitor. So well, of course, there's something.
Zion's one of those guys where even if you say like, all right, I'm not gonna let him get to his left hand, motherfucker, he's gonna figure out a way to get to his left hand. Like he's that good. He plays bully ball. Once he gets you on his shoulder or on his side, you're dead meat. Like there's nothing you can do. His handle, his quickness, his burst of speed, like it's what makes him great. And this is why great players need secondary defenders to help the primary defender. Him ISOing Walker Kessler, as good as Walker Kessler is, I think he leads all rookies in total blocks. Like as good as he is as a defender, he's got no shot in ISO against Zion. Not many people do. And that's what makes great players great, Tommy.
The one other thing before we go, we should bring up your favorite stat, Raptor, which I've become obsessed with as well. Zion right now is 20th in Raptor, and our boy Jose Alvarado is 23rd. You got a guy coming off the bench who is in the top 25 in this particular stat. I think it tells you a little bit of why they are where they are.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're coming around to analytics and advanced stats. I really am. One thing I just want to toot my own horn on, by the way. One thing I want to toot my own horn on. Beginning of the year, DraftKings, of course, has win totals, the over-under for win totals. And the Pelicans, I highlighted this in our newsletter. The Pelicans were at 44.5, and I thought that was egregiously low. And I was like, take the over. All right. They currently have the third best odds in the NBA to have the most regular season wins in the league. Like, think about that. And this team was one of those, I guess you could call it dark horses to have a really good regular season. It remains to be seen how deep of a playoff run they can make or whatever. But it's rare that a team, people talk about teams making jumps and teams making leaps and groups, forming a dominant team. And this team has done that. Brought up Zion, by the way, playing 5. I look at a playoff series, him engaged defensively, depending on matchups, a lineup of CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson. Give me that for stretches of time. Give me that lineup. I'm excited about that. When I throw down on the NBA action, it's got to be with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Download the app now to get in on the holiday hoops action. Right now, new customers can sign up with code JJ, place a $5 pregame moneyline bet on any NBA team to win, and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code JJ. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Let's get to our conversation with Frances Tiafoe. All right, let's welcome in Frances. Frances, thank you so much for joining us. There's a little backstory here, and I want to get into it. How do you guys know each other?
Well, I think we need to shout out our boy Rob.
Right.
I feel like that's how. So Rob, you give your backstory with Rob first, and then I can explain how we met.
Yeah. So Rob's obviously one of our player development dudes for the Wizards, and and we kind of just been super locked in. I met him through Alex McLean, also another of our player development guys, and he was kind of like, we got to get you to start doing some cool stuff, and get you in, different sites or whatever. And he brought up the show, and I was like, man, I love the show. Like, is that actually like a real thing, or are you just like kind of saying stuff? Because he loves to feel like he's a man, and he thinks he's like super connected. So, and then a group chat was a couple of days later. He's like, let's do the show, and I was like, here we go.
Well, it was also funny because it was right. I think it was while the Open was going on,
right?
And we were texting about it, and I'm like, dude, like, we don't need to, like, you need to focus.
Exactly.
I feel like you have bigger things to worry about than our podcast. But you know what?
Yeah.
But I think a good place to start is, I'm not sure our audience knows how big of a hoop head you are. Like, how big?
Big, yeah. Like, I'm watching. Like, in Europe, I'm staying up 3 a.m. watching the Wiz and obviously other teams. But yeah, I mean, I just love. You love what you can't do, right? So we were talking about that last night at the game. So yeah, I mean, I'm a crazy hoop head. It's like,
you love what you can't do. I love that because I love golf. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Speaking of the game last night, you guys went to the Brooklyn Nets game. What were your sort of initial impressions of Tommy's sweatshirt last night?
Dude, that text, I was like, I just cannot wait to meet JJ.
It was the most classic, so fucking asshole. It's a cool sweatshirt. It's a Goodfellas kid sweatshirt. It's not like some crazy.
I was like, yeah. I mean, I love you guys getting together. Terrible sweatshirt though.
Just like couldn't help being a dick. You just couldn't just say nice picture.
Yeah.
No, it was a great picture. Yeah. I'm sure for our YouTube audience, you'll get a nice little thumbnail of it right now that Jason will put up. Frances, your backstory is awesome. It's truly incredible, and I was hoping you could just sort of share that. Your parents are immigrants. Your father escaped from a civil war in Sierra Leone. Can you just sort of trace back, your parents' journey and how you sort of grew up in outside DC?
Yeah, both my parents obviously born and raised in Sierra Leone. And yeah, they got to the States early '90s. Obviously during the Civil War and stuff like that. So it was a unbelievable time. They met here in the States, and I have a twin brother. They had me and my twin brother, and yeah, my dad helped build a tennis academy. Who then, once the tennis academy was built, became the head maintenance guy. My mom was working 2 jobs and being a nurse, which we had a 2-bedroom apartment, like literally a minute away from the tennis academy. My dad lived at the tennis center. So with all those, kind of things, with my dad being maintenance worker and stuff, it allowed me and my twin brother to be there for free. And honestly, it's funny that, I'm even doing all these things because they were only doing that to get me in the tennis center to not, be in our neighborhood after school and kind of just be in a good environment. And my dad can watch me while my mom's at work. That was like the idea of it. And okay, they can play a little tennis, and then that's kind of, whatever. But at least, they're just in a good environment, and, maybe they may stumble across something and meet somebody and not even really be a tennis player because they didn't even know how to keep score. Like, they didn't know shit about shit. So it was pretty crazy. And then, yeah, I just fell in love with it.
The happenstance of that. I think about that all the time in life, right? I don't know if it's luck. I don't know if it's serendipity.
Yeah.
How do you sort of reconcile with that? Your perspective on that now as a professional tennis player, as one of the 20 or 25 greatest players in the world, just the happenstance of growing up there, your father working there. How do you sort of view that now?
It's just wild. Like, there's some coaches there and, people and staff that remember me, that have been there since I was like 4 years old and see me today. And I just asked them, like, how does it feel just being out there, kind of watching me? Because when you're doing it, you don't realize what you're actually like doing. You kind of you're still present, you're still doing it. You don't realize the impact of it. But like after US Open, talking to my parents, I was just like, man, like, this is wild. Like the fact that, like, you guys are sitting there watching me play. Forget about the result. Okay, yeah, I beat Rafa, but like, you guys are just like in the stadium, like, okay, what are you doing today? I'm watching my son play, arguably one of the greatest players ever. And like, from where y'all came from and everything. But I think just in life, I mean, like, things do come with a little bit of luck. I think stars definitely got to align. But I think again, success, is when, opportunity meets preparation. And I think I had the opportunity, and I was ready for it. And from a young age, I had, what I wanted to do in my mind. So you kind of just work towards it.
What was the setup like at the center in terms of, you guys were there a couple days a week, right? You'd go back and forth between there and your mom's.
Right.
Or was it like, the tennis aside, was it how was the, like, living setup? How was it all kind of like put together?
Yeah. So when we stayed in my mom's apartment, like, it was like 3 days, obviously, and then, yeah. But I stayed in my mom's apartment. She had her bedroom. Me and Franco had a room, 2 beds in there. When we stayed with my dad, he had his own room, like, in the corner offices. And, he'd be working through the night. Me and my brother would stay there, or if he was sleeping there, we would sleep on a massage table, Franklin and I. So, and people ask me all the time, like, yeah, man, I must have been tough. As a kid, like, was it? Like, 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 it was like, you don't know anything else. So it's like, it's not like foreign. It's not like you hear it, you're like, man, that's wild. And I was like, I get to get up and play tennis in the morning. And, I was just, go lucky and kind of just whatever, So.
Yeah, there's normalcy to it when you're in the moment.
Right.
It doesn't feel special or different. The dopamine hit for you early on, because for me, being in the backyard by myself, shooting a basketball, every time that ball went through the net, got a little dopamine hit.
Exactly.
That was the juice for me, and it carried on the rest of my career. I love going to the gym and working out, getting shots up, and even as like a 14, 15-year NBA vet, like, I still enjoyed just the solitude of shooting a basketball and watching it go through the net. What was the juice for you early on? What was, besides just the circumstances of your living situation and your father working there, there is something, I assume, that made you fall in love with the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I just loved, a couple of things. I loved the one-on-one competition of it. Like the problem solving, understanding, like, how am I going to win? I mean, because especially you have coaches, but they can't coach you when you're playing. Now they introduced that a little bit, but so yeah, I think that gets kind of like one-on-one kind of gets like battle, but it's kind of the same thing. Like you say, you love seeing the basketball go in the hoop, and for me, because even hearing the tennis ball like off the strings, that sound if I'm hitting serves, that big popping sound when I hit a huge serve, like, and as I'm getting older, it's louder and louder. Yeah, so yeah, it gets those kind of things. It was super cool growing up.
What age do you feel like you started to learn the technical aspects of it? Like you went from being like, I just love doing this to like, okay, now, I'm going to start thinking about this in a almost a real professional way. I mean, obviously you go pro 10 years later. So
Right. I think you always want to, right? Everyone's like, as a kid, I'm going to be, X, whatever. But that was honestly legit the goal. With circumstances, I was like, parents was like, it would be great if you guys go to college. And I was like, I told my dad, I'll never forget this conversation. At 11 years old, I was like, Dad, I figured it out. And he was like, I said, what? He's like, what did you figure it out? He's like, I'm going to be a pro. And he's like, then he just carries on with his work. He's like, all right, man. And I was like, no, I'm going to be a pro, and I'll be playing on all these big stadiums, and I'm gonna change everybody's life. Like, I'll be that first generation guy to do that. Then he was like, oh, he's like, at 11? Like, he was like shocked I said that. And I was like, yeah, no, that's gonna happen. But I just wanted to tell you, I just figured it out. And I think at that moment, then you start kind of like thinking a bit differently. You're still a kid and doing whatever, but there was always that goal at the end.
Did he ever communicate to you later on, oh shit, you're actually going to do it? Like, did you guys have a follow-up to that 11-year-old conversation?
Yeah. Literally. Like as because around 14, 15, when I really started popping internationally and stuff, and he was like, but not trying to jinx it, like little comments he'd make. He's like, oh man, you're doing really well. He's like, I remember that conversation, you're on that wave, like, God willing, you stay on that path. But we had that conversation after the US Open. He was like, remember when you were 11? I was like, yeah, I remember when I was 11. Like, yeah. And it was just, it was so funny to see that full out fruition.
I've told this story a million times, but it's fitting. Christian Laettner hits a game-winning shot against Kentucky in 1992. I was a few months away from my 8th birthday, watching the game with my parents. Makes the shot, and I turned to them and I said, I'm gonna play at Duke someday. And I never really asked them what they thought in the moment. They were probably like, okay, it's bedtime, go to bed. You know? It was like literally like just, I had yet to play organized basketball. Up until that point, I'd never even played on a team. My first team I was on, we were 0-15. I dribbled to the right corner and shot it off the side of the backboard every time. But I remember my follow-up conversation was after 8th grade. I was at AAU Nationals, and I played unbelievable. I had, at that point, it was my best tournament ever. I think over like 10 games, I averaged like 32, 33 points a game. We played in the Constellation Championship, and I had 35 against a team from New Orleans. And my mom came down on the court afterwards, and she gave me a hug, and she said, you're going to do it. And I was like, huh? I'm going to do what? And she was like, you're going to play at Duke. I was like, oh shit. And that's when, for me at 14, that's when it sort of became real. I was reading this article about you, actually, but in this article, there was a quote. I can't remember who the quote was from, but it says, kids have to commit to tennis at 8 to become elite. Is there truth? That's a scary thing for me, because my son Knox, he's 8 now. He's obsessed with basketball, and he plays almost every day. But I feel like, especially with tennis and maybe golf to an extent as well, and I've watched the Andy Redick doc or whatever, but I feel like there's a little bit of a burden there to put on an 8-year-old that it's got to be so focused and so obsessive at such a young age.
Yeah, I mean, the 10,000 hours is a real thing. Like you definitely need, because it's such a repetitive sport. You're hitting 100 serves in a match. You're hitting, a million forehands, backhands, just running and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it was for me. Like at 8, I was really locked in playing 6 hours a day, easy. But I don't think that's like the only way for you to make it. But yes, I mean, you do from a young age, from 8 to 11, you need to start playing quite a lot of tennis. But yeah, I mean, you definitely got to commit because you have these, European dudes who are just committed, like playing. God knows if they're even ever opening up a book. Like they just playing tennis all day, every day. Like so, yeah.
We just had Lowry Markkinen on, and we've had Luca on, and these are guys that have played professionally essentially as teenagers. And I was actually we didn't ask Lowry about this, but I was thinking to myself, like, these guys really didn't even go to high school. They didn't like they were doing what I was doing at 30 at age 14.
Euro dudes are different, man. It's different. Like they're just. I mean, I'm like Andre Rublev, who I played with in the quarterfinals, U.S. Open. He, like, I just remember him, and I'm just like, at like 12, like we're seeing each other, and I'm like, he'll play a match in the morning, he'll kick somebody's ass, then his mom's yelling at him, he's practicing later. We go to dinner, he's practicing again. He's their first guy in the morning. I'm like, do you do anything other than I mean, like,
do you enjoy your life?
Like, yeah, like, are you ever even at the hotel? Like, it's like,
it is weird though, because I mean, we've had, and obviously, physical size and athleticism are different sports, but we've had a couple NBA guys on who didn't even start playing basketball. Like Joel didn't start playing basketball till he was 16.
Great story.
Yeah, he's one of the best players,
Great story.
3 or 4 best players in the world. Didn't even start playing until he was 16 years old.
Right, and there's a bunch of guys that maybe are under recruited in high school. Giannis, of course, is another great example of a late bloomer. Can you be a late bloomer in tennis?
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough. You can. I mean, there's some guy like Taylor Fritz who was literally playing a couple times a week until he was 13. I mean, he had a coach. His dad was a coach and whatever, but he wasn't playing very much tennis at all. Ramped it up, but again, you have those guys where he's 6'5", then he had a huge serve and stuff like that. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, guys are just get into it early and just reps on reps on reps.
For you, going back to this idea that you have to become obsessed with something at 8 years old. I think about the Kobe story, right? Of him saying, "Well, if I work out, at 4 a.m.
Simple math.
Then take a breakfast break, then go back to the gym, take a lunch break, then go back to the gym, then eat dinner, then go back to the gym." I've done 4 workouts. You've done 1 that day. And you extrapolate that over months and years. And eventually, I don't know if it's the 10,000 hours thing. I don't know if there's really any truth to that, although Gladwell is our boy. But for you, did you ever feel burnout? Do you ever feel burnout?
Yeah, for me at that age, and that's why, I think why I didn't burn out was because Kobe's going in there 4 times, locked in, full throttle. I played a lot, but a lot of games and joking around and just kind of spending time on the court and just making it really fun. I didn't really start the nitty and gritty grinding work until I was older, where I was okay, I need to get this in. I was the big time joker. Coaches get pissed. I like to just play points and kind of just be with my friends and stuff. So I think that's why I was able to not be burnt out. But yeah, man, I mean, the more time you do anything, you're gonna be really good. But yeah, nowadays, if time I have a kid, I don't think I'm gonna be 8 years old. You're 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and I don't think that's it.
You think your dad? Obviously, you just mentioned the conversation when you were 11, but at what point do you think because he's around it all day long, he started to figure out okay, this is this is actually a thing that could really happen?
Yeah, well, it's funny because he's learning with me, right? And I mean, he's like getting calls from parents and stuff like, and the coach is like, "Hey, your son's pretty good," and he's like, "Well, is he?" I mean, he doesn't even. He's still like understanding tennis, and you know, and then I remember one broadcast, news anchor came, "Want to interview you?" They was like, "Oh, okay," like, and then so then about like 13, 14, he was like, "Wow, like, man, this could be a real thing."
Tennis is a different sport. Golf probably fits into this category as well. Although in golf, you have a caddy by your side.
Yeah.
You know, you have a horse whisperer, if you will, on the course with you. You certainly interact with fans as you move from hole to hole. So it's an individual sport, but you're not necessarily on an island. And I feel like with tennis, you guys are on an island. And you mentioned, by the way, up until recently, you could have like literally zero interaction with anyone in the stands. You can be given signals and shit. All that. I'm sure guys did that.
That's everyone's doing that, yeah.
And I think about basketball and playing a team sport. And I think about times that maybe I started to get into my own head in a game. And I would just remind myself, right? It's not about you. It's something my dad used to always say to me about everything. It's not about you. It's not about you. So help me sort of reframe it and refocus and be like, all right, what can I do tonight? It's not my night, but what can I do tonight to try to help my team win, right? But in tennis, it is about you.
Yeah.
It is about you. How do you not get in your own head at times?
That's a working process every day, JJ, man. That's a working process every day. But to that point that you just said, where you just said, it's not about you, and you be like, okay, it's not my night. I remember the first time I met Giannis, he goes, man, tell me about tennis. So like, if you're not playing well one day, like, is there a sub in? No, Giannis, I got to figure it out. I got to figure that shit out. But I think the biggest thing is just not being internal. If you're playing bad and, you're not, whether it's bad conditions, whatever the case may be, not being like, oh, gosh, man, like, why me, this, that, blah, blah, blah. And just thinking about, okay, like, is this always the same for both guys? Whatever the circumstances. If you're tired, most likely the other guy's tired. If you're playing windy conditions, he's also playing windy conditions. So it's always trying to just figure out like winning formulas. And for me, I'm always just like, all right, if I'm not on my A game, okay, what does B, what does C look like? Just having a lot of tools in the toolbox.
You don't ride in an elevator for the music or pick an airline for the movies, unless the airplane is playing Interstellar, obviously. So when it comes to audio entertainment, it makes sense to choose Audible. It's the home for stories told by the biggest stars like Ethan Hawke, Kerry Washington, and Kevin Hart. It's home to epic adventures, chilling mysteries, and can't-miss comedies. Audible is the home of storytelling. Let your imagination soar with audiobooks, podcasts, and originals. You know what I love most about Audible? No matter where I am, I can just escape to my favorite stories, whether it's an epic journey to outer space or the epic journey to your best self. Audible has you covered.
Audible is the home of storytelling with all your audio entertainment in one app. Find the best of what you love or something new to discover. Audible is an incredible selection of audiobooks across every genre, from bestsellers and new releases to celebrity memoirs, mysteries and thrillers, motivation, wellness, business, and more.
As an Audible member, you can choose one title a month to keep from their entire catalog, including the latest bestsellers and new releases. Members also get full access to a growing selection of included audiobooks, Audible originals, and podcasts. You can download or stream our included titles all you want. Tommy, what are you listening to on Audible right now?
I just finished It's Not TV by Felix Gillette and John Coblin, a book about the history of HBO on Audible, which was really interesting. And the listening experience of it, I think, made it better.
If you, the listener, want to be inspired, let Audible help you discover new ways to laugh, be inspired, or be entertained. New members can try it free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/oldman or text oldman to 500-500. That's audible.com/oldman or text oldman to 500-500 to try Audible for free for 30 days. Audible.com/oldman. Speaking of Giannis, I want to ask you about your tennis idols and your tennis influences, but you brought up Giannis, and I would like to get your perspective, your opinion. I'm going to name 5 NBA players. I want you to give me their tennis equivalent. Okay, we're just going to do a little.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Right?
I like that.
And you brought up Giannis, and he was on my list.
I like
he was
that.
on my list of 5 players that I wanted to get your sort of tennis equivalent. And you can take your time here.
Yeah.
We'll start with Giannis. So Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is his tennis equivalent? All time. It could be. It doesn't have to be a present player. It could be all time.
I would give Giannis like just from like more like how he approaches the game and the effort he brings every night. I'll probably go Nadal.
Oh wow!
Just because Giannis is coming to kill you every night.
Okay,
he's coming to kill you, and Rafa has that attitude too. Super nice guy, whatever. But as soon as we get out there, yeah, I mean it is like you can just feel that aura as soon as you get out there. And same with Giannis, like you can just feel that. So I'd like from that attitude and stuff, I'd probably say Giannis.
How about MJ?
The GOAT.
Man. I would say MJ, I'm gonna go Federer because the one guy you'll never see that again. Like, and it was cool when they actually made a shoe that 1 year at the U.S. Open together and did that collab. But it's like those dudes are just. You think of MJ, you're just like, brother was crazy. You think of Federer, you're just a legend. Like everything they did was just like you're just in awe every time you watch them.
So Federer is your GOAT.
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
Okay.
Even though Rafa has more Grand Slams, like.
All right. So if we're saying Jordan is the GOAT, which is kind of what you're saying, I'm not saying that.
Hey man, I'm a massive LeBron fan, so I like
trap.
Yeah.
Walked into it.
Yeah, like I opened that up for me. I messed that up.
All right. So I always say with LeBron, I'm always like, look, if Jordan's 1A in your opinion, LeBron's 1B. Okay. So like the standard Jordan set, LeBron has at least reached that.
What about Joker?
Like Jokic.
Yeah.
Our Joker. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I knew you know saying. I feel like it's the best thing to compare it to my Joker that. Cause it's kind of like Jokic's funny to me because like I'm like you watch him play and you're just like how, but also you're just in awe of like his greatness too. Like you're just like what can't this guy do on a basketball court? Like this guy is a freak. It doesn't look like. Your normal traditional way, how you want it to look or whatever. But man, and then same with Novak. It's not like the prettiest game ever, but these guys just get it done.
Yeah, I like that. I like that comparison. It's interesting. We get off topic here a second, Tommy. I saw Perk the other day listed his top 5 MVP candidates. It won't be the first time. He'll do this 17 times throughout the season. The list will change repeatedly. He'll definitely have Ja Morant in the top 5 at every different juncture. He'll definitely have Ja Morant in there. That's his guy. I understand. It's all good. But I was thinking about this, and I'm like, Jokic has won back-to-back MVPs. And again, in every advanced metric, he's either 1 or 2 this year. The dude's averaging 23 points, 9.8 rebounds, 8.8 assists a game, and they're second in the West at the time of this recording. It's like, man, maybe this motherfucker just is that good.
No, he's like that. Yes. He's like that.
He's one of the all-time greats. All right, our 5th guy, we need a tennis equivalent of Patrick Beverley.
Oh, man. I'm going to go Nick Kyrgios.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we Nick Kyrgios. I mean, like, just riling stuff up, talking trash, like, in your face. Oh, man. We love that.
I think the last person who we didn't talk about before, who we should talk about, who you saw last night, and I think I want the comparison, but also just, what you're sort of, what you think of him overall based off just where you guys are from is KD.
I kept saying this to him the whole game, like, and we've seen it for years. Grew up on KD, but you're like, every time you watch him live, you're like, it just doesn't make like he's just such a bucket. Like it is, like he's like, and you kept saying during the whole game, one of the best scorers we've ever seen, and I love to say the comparison. I'll do this for Braun and KD, Pete Sampras though, and I'll do it for Pete Sampras for KD because KD also until like he gets annoyed in the media, but quiet when it comes to basketball. Get to it. I just want to hoop, do my thing. Not really out in the scene, whatever. And I'm just gonna make you guys second guess your profession every night.
Yeah.
Right. and Pete Sampras kind of the same way. He's just like, I've never even met the guy. Like, I met all the other American greats. Like, he's had an unbelievable career. He won the U.S. Open, and he didn't even announce retirement. He's just like, I'm done. And then I compare Bron to that because Bron's in that situation where, you know, like, yeah, that 1A, 1B where Pete Sampras felt like, okay, he's probably going to be the best ever. And then you had all these other, like, 3 guys in one generation past him. But
I like that comparison.
Yeah.
I like.
So I take my
your comment. Katie makes you question your choice of profession.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. I love that. And I actually, it's an incredible observation you just made on Kevin, because I think it's very appropriate and it's true. And I had the same realization very recently in the last few weeks. You think about all the drama in Brooklyn over the last few years, right? And this guy, his numbers in Brooklyn coming off an Achilles tear are better than his numbers in Golden State and better than his numbers in Oklahoma City. Now, the team hasn't advanced as far in the playoffs. They obviously haven't won a championship. That's not his fault. He's gone out.
You can't say what he done.
Yeah, he's gone out and done his job to the extreme. Where when he's been in a Brooklyn Net uniform, it's like, oh no, he's still one of the best players in the world. He still does it every night. Sometimes this is not a knock on him, but sometimes makes it look easy, right? He's just so fucking good. It's not easy. It's not easy what he does.
Pulls up
But
for
it's just so. It's
up
just
for that midi. You're like, fuck it.
It's so nice.
We talked about that. We talked about this with him. We've talked about it on the show a bunch, but just thinking about what he did in that Milwaukee series.
I know.
That's literally what I was just about to bring up.
Insane.
That's literally what I was about.
Just because they didn't win.
Going
Insane.
easy, man. The game was done.
And their defensive strategy in Game 7 was like, KD can't beat us alone. And he was like, nah, motherfucker, I can. And if it wasn't for his size 16 or 17, like he would have.
Yeah. Would have, like.
Who were your, so you mentioned a number of all-time greats in tennis growing up for you. Was there a player or players, because you grew up sort of at the end of Sampras, Agassi, Andy Roddick coming up, in terms of American players, of course. I think you missed Jim Courier's prime.
Yeah. Give those like old school YouTube highlights for me. Yeah. But yeah, I loved watching Andy growing up because he was like everyone. Because after Sampras and Agassi, it was like American tennis dropped as far as depth, and Andy was there. If it wasn't for Federer, I mean, Andy would have killed it with way more slams. And so yeah, Andy's up there for me. Loved Agassi. Like meeting him, I was like, bro, you're such a legend. Johnny Mac, like he's just so iconic. Even to this day, he's just so iconic. Like he's so funny. Let's see. James Blake. He was big for me. Watching him play was super cool. I love Pete. I wouldn't say I was a Pete fan. I would say that I love Pete because I was just like, you're so good. You're just like kind of want people to lose.
So good and boring.
Yeah, exactly.
So good and boring.
Exactly.
At the same time.
So I was just like, but actually, I'd probably put Curry as my fifth because he actually mentored me for a little bit. Like, super genuine dude. Like, I wonder if I would have said that if he didn't watching his game. But
I have a follow-up question to that. A quick tangent. Randomly, you brought up James Blake. Randomly yesterday, I also brought up James Blake, which is so weird that you mentioned him because I was not expecting him to be in your top 5. No, it's because very early in my career, I was actually talking to a friend about watch purchases yesterday at my son's basketball practice. And very early in my career, I remember being at this Portland Trailblazers game in Portland. And I was not playing, and I was sitting on the bench. And for me at the time, a watch was like a major status symbol. I dove very deep into collecting. And I remember James Blake was there. Can't remember the other tennis player he was with. James Blake was there sitting courtside next to our bench, and he had an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore on. And I was like, oh, God, if I could ever get that watch. I thought he was the coolest motherfucker ever. What a baller.
Well, he was saying last night, he was saying that everybody loves.
Everyone loves James.
He's like he's
Really?
universally loved.
Do you feel extra as an athlete? I've said this before. Being a great athlete, there's inherent pressure. There's pressure externally. There's pressure that you put on yourself. Do you feel extra pressure or an extra burden about being an American tennis player in this era and sort of carrying a torch that is sort of dimmed over the last 20 years?
And that's why I feel I feel a way to Andy, because every interview, are you going to be the next one since Andy Roddick? So you almost start to hate the guy. Nice, dude. But you're like, I'm so tired of hearing this guy's fucking name. Like, it's like, are you going to be the one during Andy Roddick? And then, even my U.S. Open run, ooh. And did it feel good that, Andy walking here? And I was like, but we talk about it with the other Americans, and it's like we say, oh, we don't think about it because there's a good, we got a good group, 4 or 5 guys who are playing really well. But it is. It definitely is. And I think all of us want to be the first one to do it and hope to do it, to win the slam and where that conversation is over. But yeah, it definitely is. I think, when I was younger, I had a lot of exposure and stuff like that, and to do it. And then it took me a bit to kind of get to that stage. Me and him were actually talking about it last night. Me and Tommy, and it was like, it's tough because, now you're like, as soon as you do something great, now they're looking at you like, okay, you made the semis, okay, well, he should win it, next year, or he should be, doing X, Y, and Z. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't really work that way. A lot of good guys, can do that and have, the ability to stop you from doing that. So it definitely is a burden, but definitely is a great opportunity, and I love the era I'm in, because I'm like, if I do become that guy, the satisfactory from that is insane.
I have a question for both of you, and I talked to both of you about this sort of, individually, just about focus in general. We talked before. JJ's routine when he was playing was legendary. There's actually a New York Times article about his, literally, he can run through it. I'm not going to do it, but just what he would do on game days to get himself ready in terms of number of shots, lunchtime, everything like that. But just, you were talking about an individual sport with tennis. It's like you have to have such a singular level of focus while you're out there. And so crafting that focus basically and putting yourself in a place where you have all these other interests and you have friends and family and everything like that. But you're like, you know what, I'm playing tonight, I'm playing tomorrow, or whatever it is. I need to block everything else out. I need to lock in. How you get yourself to that state, basically.
Yeah. Great question, bro. It took me such a long time, and I don't know about you, and I'll be interested, maybe some teammates that you had, what I'm about to say, but it took me so long to buy into the details. You're young and you're gifted, and you're just like, if I play well, I'll be all right. You're not thinking that, oh well, if I do all those little small details, you bring a certain level every time, and you're able to make yourself tick and go. And only until about last year and a half where I've been like, oh wow, I've been much more consistent. Well, why? But yeah, I think all that stuff matters, like the sleep, the eating, and just getting a routine and something where you're not thinking about it. Now I'm, you talk about people around you. I was here during the US Open 2 weeks. I didn't go out to dinner once. Mom, dad, I had friends. I'm not here to hang out. I don't. If you tickets, if you really want to watch me, pay for them. Or talk to my agent. I don't none of that. I was so closed off. Airplane mode most of the time. Just lasered in and just focused on the task at hand. I think that was huge, doing stuff like that. So that level of focus is definitely so big in that preparation. So.
Yeah, there was a article in the New Yorker. You actually talk about this a little bit, but you said I got complacent in 2019. Took me a long time to kind of just get myself together. What changed? Quote, I just started really falling in love with the process. And for me, I found that at a much earlier age. I found that after my sophomore year at Duke, and I would not have had the career at Duke nor the career in the NBA if I hadn't found that young enough. I don't think I would have been in the NBA period if I hadn't found that prior to it. And it's a great question, Tommy. And it's literally when I got towards the end of my career, a lot of times, early on, it was like, I'm just going to do this. I'm a young guy. I'm going to do this.
Right.
I'm going to approach it this way. I'm going to do all the extra stuff. And if anybody else follows along, great. If not, no problem. But as I got further along in my career, it became more about dragging everybody else into it. You know what I mean? And every single guy, my last 4 or 5 years, every single young player, my first piece of advice was like, figure out your routine. It's the most important thing. It's the only thing
matters, bro.
You can control. It's the only thing as an athlete that you can control. Crazy. Think about that.
It's funny. We had Stefan a couple weeks ago. He was talking about Chris and how he trained with Chris. I think it was after his rookie year, and they had known each other for a while, but it was the first time they had trained together. And he was like training with CPs. Like that's when he learned how to basically like train like an NBA player. It was like until he did that, he didn't really get it.
Right.
And so there is but I mean, I guess I'm curious with you a little bit is like if you had like when you have teammates, if you are paying attention, you can learn from example just by being around them, and it's why it's important to have good vets and stuff like that. But when everyone is kind of like your competition, obviously you're friends with the guys and stuff like that, but how do you teach yourself it when you can't really, like, they don't want to give you all of their secrets.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you know everything that they do, then it might not
You gotta rely on the old heads. You gotta rely on Jim Courier.
That's so funny you say that. I was literally going to say, like, yeah, OGs, man. Like, yeah, I mean, you got to lean on them guys big time. When I first came out, I was doing well and kind of just going this way, as I stated in that article. And I was just super like, yeah, I'm just gonna do what I do. This is kind of what it is. No one really knows me. I'm coming out and just like, then people start figuring you out a little bit, and then you get a little complacent, whatever. But yeah, I think you just got to keep. You got like with me getting closer with OGs and really talking to them, picking their brain. Okay, yeah, when you were in this place, how did you handle that? When you all these kind of different things, and just sitting down chatting has A, matures you, and then B, like, you're like, why not get it from guys who've actually been there, right? And
no, that's I mean, in anything, but especially in basketball, the importance of having a vet in the locker room. You have to see it to understand it.
Like it's
you can't just
massive.
have somebody tell you to do something. You have to say, oh no, that guy's 35 years old and he's still playing at a high level. You need a CP, you need a Braun, you need those guys. Yes, exactly. Give us a sense. I was not there. I'm not sure which match you were at this summer at the US Open, but give me a sense of what it was like for you in the moment. Beating Nadal in the round of 16, winning in the quarterfinals, getting to the semifinals, being American in the US Open. Give me a sense of what that was like in the moment.
Yeah, so I'll definitely talk about it, but me and Tommy were talking about it yesterday at the game, and he was like, bro, I've been in NBA finals, I've been Final Four, bro. That semifinal atmosphere with you and Alcaraz was fucking insane. Like, roof was closed and it was just loud as shit in there. Funny story about that. You talk about the atmosphere. So, like, the match got pushed back 30 minutes, and I only heard a story about a week ago. So we're walking out at 7, or like a little before, how it goes, like a little before the game, whatever. You walk out, whatever. ESPN going, whatever. They're like, some guy runs out, goes, sorry, the match can start at 7:30. Me and Carlos look at each other. Fuck. Like, So whatever we do that, whatever play the match. Someone called me a week ago. He's like, do you want to know why the match started at 7:30? Because Michelle, like, super last minute was like, I'm coming to the match. Takes everyone out the stadium. Secret Service does their thing. Michelle comes in. And then I'm like, so obviously I see her during the match. But then when I think about it and I hear that, I'm like, that's just different kind of power, A.
It's crazy.
Like to stop the US Open, like live stuff. But yeah, and like just her in there and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about it from the top. Like, playing Nadal, I'm just like, I just felt like today's the day, and I need to do this. Like, Serena just lost the day before, or 2 days before. So I felt like, the crowd was like, kind of looking at me now. Rafa was obviously having an insane season. So people were really excited to see him. He was trying to get to number one. So the crowd was like just insane. And then, Brad was there. So that was the first match coming to see me. I was like, I want to lose my first match. But it was just insane. Like, I think because last year people didn't really come to the US Open still with, kind of like COVID-ish, whatever. And it was just insane. Like, they really want to see a story, right? And, when I beat him, I felt like the world stopped. Like, I was like, my feet aren't on the ground right now. Like, messages, this, that, and the other. Crowd was just like, I remember walking to do an ESPN thing on the Tiafoe. I literally felt like the whole country was with me. And then when I backed it up, the next day or 2 days later, after, I got to the semifinals, I was like, because I'm sitting there with my girlfriend and like she's asking me, she's like, "Where's your head at?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't even fucking know. Like, this is insane." Like, it went from like oh, like everyone kind of knows Frances to like the whole country's like rooting for Frances, and like the crowds and everywhere, like it was out of control.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, I have chills right now.
Yeah.
I'm just even hearing you talk about that, envisioning it. Like, I can't even imagine it.
Well, I was going to ask about, so in the semis, in the fourth set, all those crazy match points, because that's part of what added added to the drama of it. Was not exactly like an open and shut match. I mean,
so he got possessed there for a while, and he was kicking my ass, and I was like, 19-year-old piece of shit. But I love Carlos, so I can say that. But yeah, so I'm like, all right, just keep competing, like just keep the head down. I'm saving these match points, and I'm like, I'm getting the crowd so into it. I was like, I'm putting my heart on the fucking line. Let me hear you guys, and yeah, and the crowd's just going. I mean, I had Rudy Gay two rows back. I thought he was gonna like literally just break the railing. Like, he's just like, let's go, let's fucking go. And it was just awesome. And I've never been in an atmosphere like that. Like, when I won the fourth set, I thought the stadium was gonna fall over. Like, being there live, you must have just been like, this is insane.
Yeah, it was. It's what you were talking about earlier about the individual sports. When you see it, and I also just think it's different. I have never been at a golf match where there's been the tension of this, but
different.
Yeah.
I feel like, though, it's like Tiger in his prime, or even like when he won the Masters a few years ago.
Yeah.
It's not like the U.S. Open. Actually, is the U.S. Open the most turned of all the opens? Like, all the Grand Slams?
It is insane. Because New Yorkers and, New
Yorkers, yeah.
It is insane, man. I mean, because they're not with the old, like tennis proper.
The Wimbledon crowd.
Etiquette. No, they're not there for all that. They're, honey deuces and drunk by 2 p.m. Like, it's that kind of vibe for sure.
I was gonna ask you about just playing to the crowd in general, because you have done that for a while. And is there a level of showmanship that you feel like you've developed over time? And like, you were just talking about using it to your advantage there, but is it a thing that you feel like you need? Do you need the crowd to sort of
I need it
to sort of drive you?
I need it. Yeah, I need it, because it brings something out of me that I can't even really put to you in words. Like, I remember it always goes back to basketball for me. But MJ had a great line. He's like, man, like, how are you able to bring it every night? And he's like, even when I'm tired, back to backs, whatever, is going to be, a little kid out there who wants to see Michael Jordan play. And so when people ask me like, man, you really get the crowd into it, I'm like, there's going to be some kid, hopefully one day, take inspiration out of that and just want to be like, say to be like Frances Tiafoe. And whether they come to tennis player or whatever, they want to do something special because they watch Frances Tiafoe.
I know we've brought him up a couple times already. He was a recent guest on the show. But there's two things that you just said that reminded me of Steph. And the first was something we talked about with him in that flow state. And it goes with the performance aspect, where when you watch him play, it's like going to a Broadway show. It's like an experience. And there's this symbiotic relationship between him performing on this stage and the crowd reacting. And as that builds, right, it becomes like a fever pitch. And I think, to Tommy's question, I think you do that as well. And you need that, right? I think every athlete feels that to a certain extent. But there's a performance art to it.
Exactly. And I think, your performance definitely's got to back it up. Otherwise, like, people are like, I'm not even throwing names in here, but yeah, you could look like a clown otherwise. So yeah, I mean, performance definitely got to back it up. But yeah, I mean, it's, you do, because you do the work to play in these kind of arenas and play in these, stressful situations and, in these crowds, and you're doing it for them also. I mean, obviously you guys have your home fans and stuff, and U.S. Open's my home tournament. Like, you want to put on and show them that, I've put in the work and it's, this is my shit.
I mean, one thing you talked about this with some of the press around the Open and everything like that, but you're just talking about, little kids looking up to you and things like that. But I don't think pressure is probably the right word, but what you represent for, younger Black kids growing up, basically how you can be a role model to people who maybe could not see themselves, doing what you've done.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I mean, I'll be brutally honest with you with obviously my story and everything, and I told Serena this during the run. I was like, Serena and Venus weren't playing tennis. Even with the come up I had, I'm 7-8 years old watching them play against each other in the Wimbledon final in a predominantly white sport. I'm looking at my dad. That's iconic. I'm not saying I want to be them because they're one of ones, but I want to be remembered like that. And I think and when you create that, it's it's insane. I mean, you're forever remembered, and that's what I want. I want when I'm playing, fans who don't even know how to keep score, or like who just would never watch tennis, but they're there to watch Frances Tiafoe. And people of color, and I want more people of color to play the game with tennis, obviously. So make it more accessible and let people know that it is fun. It is fun to go out and play tennis. So it's always an emotional topic for me. That's something I really want my legacy to be.
My last question goes back to something that Hassan Minhaj said on our podcast. And he had this whole rant about winning and what winning is. And I think it's appropriate to ask you about this because you are representing America. You are representing Black Americans, and representation matters. The narrative around winning and whether or not you ever win a Grand Slam or win multiple Grand Slams, in my opinion, and Hassan's rant was about this. Like, in my opinion, you've won.
And that's so funny you said that because I was getting so many messages from OGs, people that, I mean, he was telling me like some of the crazy people hitting you up, and I was like, Travis Scott and a bunch of people like that, and they were all saying that. They were like, after my semifinal match, like, look, obviously we didn't win the chip this time, but you've won in so many ways you don't even understand. And that was emotional for me. Like, I come back home to DC, and I'm every time, even probably here you drive by, public courts and tennis courts and whatever, usually empty. Now you have little black kids playing so much, and I'm like, you notice it once, you notice it twice, you're like, that's crazy. And then you have, you're in your normal area, around where I live, predominantly black people, and man, what you do over there was crazy. You do that little tennis thing, and I was like, you never watched tennis every day. It's like, and that was crazy, and then they're bringing little kids up like, oh, you need to try to be like this guy, and that's I was like, man. And again, what I said earlier, you don't really know what you do. You don't really know the impact of what you're doing while you're doing it. But when like the dust settles and you're just like, that was insane. And it makes you want to work harder and get back to work and try to create more of those moments.
Yeah. This has been awesome. Listening to your story, listening to you talk. I mean, I've had chills like 4 or 5 times. Obviously, Tommy's a huge fan, but getting to know you today, you got a fan for life, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Likewise, I rock with you hard. This has been awesome, and we really appreciate the time.
No, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
That was great with Frances. Now we're joined by Phoenix Suns' Mikal Bridges. Mikal, what's up, man? How are you?
What up, man? I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. We haven't had a check-in in a while, so we appreciate you doing this. Quick question for you. What's your favorite number?
My favorite number?
Yeah.
11.
11. Mine is 4. Tommy, what's your favorite number?
4 is my
my favorite number is 24.
So mine is 4 and yours is 24.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mikal, how was last night's game for you?
Such an ass point.
I was like, what? Why the fuck do I do this show?
It was a rough one. If you're trying to tell the world that I shot 4 for 24 yesterday, I did. And I don't think I ever shot back-to-back games 20 shots in a row. I don't think I ever done that in my life. And I damn sure never shot 4 for 24 in my life. But, life goes on.
There's a first time for everything. And I personally am just proud of you for getting 24 jacks up. That's an accomplishment in itself.
Look on the bright
side. That's a lot of jacks. And I'm only teasing you, of course, but you are having your best personal season. Career highs in points, rebounds, assists, shooting the ball great from 3. What are you doing differently this year, offensively specifically, that has led to this production?
Just being aggressive. I think that's the whole mindset. I think my teammates, just trust me, and it kind of gives me the confidence to go out there and play. They know I work hard in the summer and preseason. I try to add stuff and be aggressive. So they kind of want it to die down when the season comes, because you know how it goes. Just put, see in book and, the options and stuff. But just them just telling me to go and just play free and play your way. But yeah, just feel good, man. Just trusting the work this summer and just continue to try to get better.
Mikal, I don't know if we actually have ever asked you this on the show. Why do you think, knock on wood, why do you think you are such an Iron Man? Your team is going through this injury thing right now, but a lot of teams have had it. I mean, it's the NBA. Everyone has this thing, but you have, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but you've never missed a game in college or the NBA?
Yeah. I think just one just blessed.
Knock on wood. Yeah,
whatever. Sure. I don't believe in that. But I think just blessed in general, just for me to be healthy all the time. But also I think it's just the fact I always want to be out there, and also give Coach Wright, he's the one in college where if you're not seriously injured, you're out there. You know what I'm saying? And he's very vocal about it. So I kind of had that mindset just when I was in college, just to keep like that. And when I got to the league, it didn't change. I want to be out there every time. I mean, I've been banged up a lot where I shouldn't have played, but I don't know. I just want to always be out there.
My theory is that it's because you're tall and you have a long wingspan, so you don't ever really have to leave your feet. You know what I mean? Like you never really jump. Is that?
You saying I had no bounce?
Has there ever been? No, I'm just messing with you. Has there ever been like a specific game where pregame maybe you're questionable, maybe you're probable. I don't know how you're listed on the injury report, but you're thinking to yourself, fuck, man, like, I don't know if tonight's the night. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play and keep this streak up.
No, the only scare I might have had was the last time we just played Houston, and I kind of hyperextended my knee. But like that, like the knee, it felt kind of weird. And then like when I woke up the next morning, like I was just a little afraid. I was a little afraid how my knee felt. But I literally tried. I'm like, listen, man, like I'm doing all the recovery, everything I could do. Like the night I think we traveled. I think about to play San Antonio, and I kid you not, I think it was early game San Antonio. I'm literally doing recovery in my bed in my room until like 3:00. I'm like, listen, bro, I'm gonna feel great. Like I ain't gonna feel like okay. See how I don't have that much time the next day. Like I don't have that much time. Like we play like a 1:00 game. Of course, like the only time I really get hurt, I don't have another full day until the game's at 7. I got to wake up and play. So I was just like, bro, I'm gonna try to do whatever it takes to be ready for tomorrow. And then, I felt pretty good when I woke up, and I just kept going.
You guys you obviously lost to Houston last night, but you're coming off a weekend in New Orleans, a great game on Sunday that went into overtime, and then a loss Friday night that was punctuated by a Zion windmill, 360 windmill. And then there was a little kerfuffle afterwards. Was that fake outrage on your guys' part? Because I didn't see quotes from everybody, but I know I saw a quote from Cam.
Yeah.
Like, did it actually bother you guys that he went and dunked the ball at the end of the game?
No. I think for me personally, hell no. Like, shit, I was the one that dunked that thing last year. I was teed up. I was like, yeah, I'm dunking it. And I'm yelling, I'm screaming, like, yeah. No, I think Payne's whole thing was he saw C. I think C might have got to an Alvarado or somebody, bro. And Payne kind of saw it. And that's when he pulled up, and it kind of didn't, one person pushed, everybody just running in there. Now it looks like it was crazy. But I think that's why Payne went back. I think he saw C. But I mean, it's whatever. Like, we lost, bro. Like, what is it? I don't get that. I don't even get it to this day about that whole sportsmanship. Like, bro, like, play to the end. Like, I get it sometimes, but like, yeah, if you fired up in the team, you got a little rival with and all that stuff, like, yeah, you're gonna play to the end. You're gonna go as crazy as you want. You want to dunk, you're at home, you want the crowd to go crazy. So 100%. And it's Zion, bro. The boy did a 360 windmill. Like, shit, my dunk was just a 2-hand behind the back. If I could 360 windmill, I would have done that hell too.
The paying customers left happy. That's all I know. The paying customers left happy. Yeah, CP. There was a video. I don't know if it was the next day or they didn't show it till Sunday, because I know they showed it Sunday during the broadcast when I was watching. But CP gave a little chicken wing to Alvarado's throat. So it kind of makes more sense now about how everything started. You know what I mean? Jason and I were discussing this before you jumped on with Tommy, and we were just talking about you've had a short career so far. Obviously, you're going to end up having a long career, but you, with the Phoenix Suns, have gone through pretty much every element of a life cycle of a team. We're like not on a very good team, and then the bubble team that 8-0, and it's like, oh, they've got potential, and then you guys were awesome and loved, and then you were the favorites at times last year. And now, especially after this weekend, there's like backlash against the Suns. Like, have you had the perspective to sort of observe this life cycle of the team?
Yeah, and it's funny. It's so funny just seeing how the world is. Like, like if somebody loves you and the world loves you, people are people don't like when somebody's loved that much, like they just want to be like, man, why the hell y'all love him? Like, why y'all love them? Like F them. Like, that's how it is. Like, you're not going to always be loved. Like, there's players like who's super loved. There's going to be one day, like, people that's going to love, they're going to start hating them. But they're going to start hating them for some reason, just because the whole world likes them. People just want to start just going at him. I don't know. The world's weird. It's very weird. But it's part of his life, bro. Like that's just how it is. Not just in basketball. It's in everything.
I feel like players experience this too, right? We go from overrated to or underrated to overrated to properly rated, back to underrated, then overrated again. It's just like it's constant. It's never ending.
He's supposed to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mikal, you can't say anybody on any teammates. Are there young guys you have played against that you've been surprised or impressed by? That you've just been like, yo, this dude has it, and you either had not played them before or they've gotten better or whatever it is. You just kind of were like, you left the game being like they showed you something.
Not that I didn't know, but like who I extremely like is Vassell. I like Vassell a lot on the Spurs, and it's just like I didn't know him in college. I think when he was coming out, like everybody kept like comping like me like, oh, like he wants to like this and that. I'm like, I don't know why people want to be me, bro. I'm like, the kid probably be better than me. Like, shit, like, I hope so. But I like him a lot. I like how he plays. And I mean, talking about the Pelicans, like, Trey Murphy, like, I love Trey, bro. Like, he seems like a little brother to me, but, like, I like the talent he has. And I think he's just going to, in some years, you're just going to see him really just explode. So.
I like that pick. I like that pick a lot. Always fun to draft with you, Mikal. Always fun to draft with you.
I'm good. I'm ready.
Elite drafter. One of the best. One of the best on this show.
I should note, last time I think you were on the show, we drafted who would you want to play Batman, and because they're announcing the new Bond in the spring, and some stuff leaked over the last 2 days. Tommy and I already decided days ago that this is what we were going to draft. I'm not, if you want to go read who the next Bond may be, you can find it on the internet. But we are going to draft who we think would make a great James Bond. And as always, the guest goes first.
My first pick, I love to take my boy from the movies Venom. I love to take Tom Hardy as my number one pick. I like him.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of him.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
Why is that interesting?
It's a good pick. There's no issue. There's no issue with that pick.
People I like out there can see him in that role.
Okay.
I think it's excellent. I have a lot of options on this board, but I think I'm going to start with somebody who I would love to see. I don't know whether it's realistic. I would love to see Idris as Bond. I think he has the accent. I think he has the look. I think he would be. He's done action stuff before. He'd be great. It's been rumored before. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love if Idris Elba was James Bond. So that'll be my first pick.
Yeah.
I would also love that, Tommy. I did read when I was doing some research on this draft. I love that we're doing research on a fucking stupid hypothetical draft. But I did read that he wants to pursue his own franchise and won't have time to do the Bond franchise. But I would also love to see Idris.
I think that
Bond.
might be they haven't asked. It's like they haven't asked me yet at this point. Maybe I'm just going to say I don't want it.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, we're drafting who we think would make.
Yeah, but I think he would be great.
James
I wish it
Bonds.
would happen. All right, JJ,
Okay.
you got two.
All right. First one. Again, I think if we're making a big draft board of this, he's an obvious top 3 pick. I'm going to go with Chris Hemsworth here. Whether it's realistic or not, because of his commitments to the MCU, Chris Hemsworth. First of all, the word on the street is they want the next Bond to be under 40 and at least 5'10". Chris Hemsworth is 6'3". He's very hot. He's already got an Australian accent. It won't be hard for him to approximate a British accent. I think Chris Hemsworth is a great choice with my first pick.
Little big.
Well, they want somebody over 5'10". They want somebody over 5'10".
I mean, he kind of stands out. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, he's not gonna.
Idris is tall too.
Nah, not like Chris Hemsworth. He's not Thor. Chris
Chris
Hemsworth's he's like a tight end.
Yeah, imagine Thor, James Bond. Like,
Yeah. That dude. Yeah, I don't know. I can't really see it, but whatever.
All right,
Wait, don't James Bond shoot people and stuff? Where you gonna pick motherfuckers up?
Throwing people off the bridge. Bond isn't benching 400 pounds.
I think I picked The Rock for Batman. Was that me that picked The Rock for
look
Batman?
at this naming, bro.
Wait, remember when Mikal picked Ryan Anderson? I know that's coming in this one.
We've already got off the
Okay, all
rails.
right, JJ, you got your
By the
second
way, Tommy, Idris Elba is also built very solidly, and he's 6'2", so Hemsworth is an inch taller than him.
Bro. He ain't built like
not
Thor.
Thor. He's not Thor.
He can lean out a little bit, like shredded ripped versus like bulky ripped. He can lean out a little bit. All right, I'm going to take this guy off the board now because I actually think he would make a fantastic Bond, and he is the guy, according to the bookies. He is the front runner. The leading odds is for Aaron Taylor Johnson. And I'm going to take him off the board right now because I actually think he would make a fantastic Bond. And the reason I think he would make a fantastic Bond, first of all, he's a good-looking guy. He's British, got a great accent. He was also in the movie Tenet. And everybody knows I love Christopher Nolan. He was in an action movie already, and he starred in it. He was also in Kick-Ass, which is more of a comedy than an action movie. But Aaron Taylor Johnson, second-round pick.
Okay. Works. I mean, if you're running a studio, that's probably you're probably going to win. He's probably going to be Bond, but not inspiring. Not an inspiring.
I threw
choice.
the last draft that we did with Mina. I'm not throwing this draft. Okay. I'm going to win this fucking draft.
Hold on. Didn't I win the food draft? Didn't I win that one?
Yes. You did not win the Batman.
You didn't
draft.
win Batman.
I didn't. Yeah,
Batman, but you won the food one. All right, my second pick is probably going to be might be disqualifying. I mean, I know there's like specific things that Bond have to be, but I'm going for box office here, and I think if this was Bond, I think we would break every single box office record. I'm going to go with Rihanna as my Bond.
Wow.
Got the accent. Got the look. She's the coolest person in the world.
Wow. Okay.
I thought he was about to say my pick. I'm like, come on. I'm like, man, hell nah.
I'm happy with it. I'm happy with that in the second round.
Listen, Rihanna, anything. You know what? Rihanna, anything for sure. I will watch that movie just because.
Yes, you will.
Yeah.
Your whole family will go. Everybody will watch.
Ticket sales. Hey, I see what you're doing. I see it.
All right, because you got two.
We're gonna come back to this.
I got two. All right. I like this one. I like Ryan Reynolds. He's funny. The world we're in is going to be 2023. We need that funny action. Just a little funny, little comedy in there. So I like Ryan Reynolds. I'm going to throw him in there.
All right.
And then my boy from Black Panther, Daniel something.
Daniel Kaluuya?
Kaluuya. Or Kaluuya? Is it Kaluuya? Is it Kaluuya or Kaluuya? Yeah, Kaluuya.
Yeah, yep. That's my third.
Get out. That's a
good
boy
boy for Black Panther. Okay. Your boy for Black Panther. All right.
Those are two pretty solid picks. Mikhail's like...
I'm live, bro. I'm live today.
Mikhail's like on one right now. Yeah, I like that. Daniel Kaluuya's a great actor.
Has Ryan Reynolds done a British accent before?
He could do one.
I haven't seen it. No, but he owns that. He owns the soccer team in
the Welsh.
In the UK.
The Welsh soccer
so
team.
he's definitely immersing himself in the culture. So I feel like it's...
Wow. If I would have known that would have been a great little note right there, but I didn't know that. So
I think I'm gonna go Tom Holland with my third pick. I'm gonna go Tom Holland because I think unlike Thor and some of these other people, Tom Holland actually can fit into a lot of different situations. He's a pretty, skinny little guy, super handsome, super stylish, super cool. We want Bond to be able to do all kinds of tricks. He's Spider-Man. He knows how to jump and contort his body. Honestly, he probably should be Bond. I don't know if he would do it because it'd be kind of weird to be Spider-Man and Bond, but I think that it would work. So that would be that's my third pick.
Okay. All right. Well, again, I am not sure of Tom Holland's exact height, but
like 5'6".
No, he's not 5'10".
He's like 5'.
He's 5'8". He's listed at 5'8".
Yeah.
Listed at 5'8". All right, so unlikely that happens, but that's fine.
Does Bond have to be a certain height?
I've said the studio wants someone who's 5'10" and under 40. At least 5'10" and under 40.
Okay, you're right. You did say that. Okay.
All right. Third pick. Again, this is a little bit outside the box, but this would actually be my personal choice. I didn't draft him in the first round because you guys would make fun of me. But my personal choice would be John Krasinski from The Office, also from A Quiet Place. Now, he is not British, but his
definitely
wife,
not British.
His wife is Emily Blunt, who is British. He's a shade over 40. He's 43, but he's tall. He's handsome. With the right training regimen, I'm sure he could get the proper physique to play Bond. And selfishly for me, my kids go to the same school as the last Bond, and it would be dope if my kids went to the same school as the last Bond and the current Bond. So that's why, selfishly for me, John Krasinski.
Mikal, have you ever watched The Office?
Yes.
You know John Krasinski, right?
He's the one that dated Pam.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you see him? Can you see him as Bond?
Quiet Place. Because when I saw Quiet Place and I looked at him, I'm like, there's no way I'm about to take him serious. And then once the movie went on, I'm like, okay, I can take him as a serious actor, besides just comedy. So
I think he's a good actor, but can you see him as James Bond?
No, I think, JJ just, that's his friend or something. He likes
I've literally never talked to the guy in my life. I've never talked to the guy. I walk by him on the sidewalk almost every day.
Hey,
He wants to be
That's what it is. That's what it is.
He just wants to be. I want to be friends with Rihanna. He wants to be friends with John Krasinski.
I need an intro. I need to be like, dude, congrats on Bond, man. Like, I was pushing for you 3 months ago.
All
right. My fourth round pick, I'm going to go with Lashana Lynch, who played 007 in the last Bond with Daniel Craig. Thought she was great. So I'm going to go. That's my two picks right there.
All right, what I got?
No,
I got
I'm
one.
up. I'm up.
I got two. I got four for my fifth.
I'm going to go with somebody. I don't know whether they've talked about him for this, but I think he's an amazing actor and he would kill it, is Robert Pattinson.
Mm-hmm.
I think Robert Pattinson would be cool. Maybe a little dark for Bond. His energy might be a little dark, but I think he'd be good at it. So
His energy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Pattinson. I'm gonna go Pattinson 4.
Okay.
On that note, Tommy, it will be interesting to see. That's a good point. Jason points out that he would have played Spider-Man.
No, Holland is Spider-Man.
Holland is Spider-Man.
Pattinson is Batman. Holland is Spider-Man. Yeah, I picked bankable stars.
You're smart.
It's not a charity.
I think it would be really interesting to see the route they go with, not necessarily the plot, but the storytelling and the character of James Bond, because that was what was so different about Daniel Craig's character, that he was this tortured soul. When prior to that, especially with Pierce Brosnan, it was it came off as so cheesy and corny. And how do they evolve the character?
Yeah.
And Robert Pattinson, Tommy, I actually, when you first said it, I thought to myself, terrible choice. But now that I think about it, if they really want to evolve the character, Robert Pattinson's not a bad idea.
Okay, Mikal, you got two.
All right. Since my boy is officially not Captain America anymore, you might as well come pull up. Since he's out of MCU over there, come pull up. Chris Evans. That's my point. And my next to last one.
I think British people would get so pissed. Oh my God. They would boycott the movie.
These guys picked an American and a Canadian.
Dude ever is Bond.
You took my Tom Holland,
you guys
bro.
fucking ruin everything.
And then the last one, Michael B. Jordan.
Is who?
Michael B. Jordan.
Michael.
No
sure, I guess. Mikal ran out of British actors. He's
they're
I know the guy
actors.
from Black Panther. I know Spider-Man.
Look at Tom Holland, bro. Spider-Man from the U.S., bro. That man is not American. Fuck out of here.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's in the cards for Michael B. but he'd be good.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked Mikal didn't pick a teammate or a former teammate to play the role of Bond.
Or himself. Third pick, Mikal.
I was trying to think of somebody. I should have said CT.
Oh, jeez. They said they wanted somebody that was 5'10" or taller. Remember? They can't pick CP.
Can't make it. He ain't made the cut.
I was thinking about picking Zion, but I don't know. I don't think he has the chops yet. It's not there yet.
You're in the same category with JJ, picking all the strongest dudes.
But I'm not. Exactly. So I'm not doing it. It wouldn't be realistic. Zion couldn't be Bond. No, my fifth pick gonna be a wild card. Has not acted in a few years. Has said he's retired from acting.
You cannot be serious now.
I'm gonna go with Daniel Day-Lewis.
You cannot be serious.
I think Daniel Day-Lewis coming back. Imagine to be like, I'm back, and he's James Bond, and he's like a little older, he's a little wiser. He's not doing stunts. He's like tricking people with mind games. Like that would be sick. That would be an amazing twist.
Different tactics.
Just not moving that fast.
Oh my god.
British. Amazing actor, tall. He's like 6'2", 6'3". I think he checks off all of the boxes. And by the way, the same way that Mikal would go see Rihanna, JJ would go see Bond if it was Daniel Day-Lewis. 100%.
Is that true, Jay?
Well, here's the issue. Yes, I would go see Daniel Day-Lewis in a second. Here's the issue, though. Again, Daniel Day-Lewis would essentially be signing up for at least 3 movies. And those movies take 2 or 3 years to make.
My third one.
He's 65 now.
He's 65.
He's a young guy.
You want to watch a 74-year-old Bond. God, this is great.
Yeah, he's just tricking people. He's just using his brain.
You better have a sidekick with him.
I'm actually
Mikal Bridges.
I'm actually.
That's a terrible pick. That is a terrible pick.
Thank you, Mikal. Thank you.
That might be the worst pick out of all of us, right?
Daniel Day-Lewis, the best actor of all time, is the worst pick for this. I don't think so.
For this role?
For the role, bro.
Oh my god.
We'll see. You got to zag when everyone else zigs.
See, I'm trying to win. I'm going to go with Henry Golding. Henry Golding as my 5th pick.
I don't know who that is.
He was in the main guy in Crazy Rich Asians. You don't know who Henry Golding is? Wasn't he in a...
I'm just looking at Mikal's face at everyone at JJ's picks. He's like, dude, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is.
Look, I only know when he says the movies. I'm like, oh
yeah, you're the guy from The Office that did a pay-up. That's it.
Dude, I had some deep cuts because I did a lot. I spent a lot of time. I had a busy day today, but I carved out a good 45 minutes.
Jay's just been on the Bond. He's been like the Bond Reddit, looking at all the theories. Of people.
No, but look, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Daniel Craig. In all seriousness, here's the thing about Daniel Craig. When he was picked to be Bond, people weren't happy about that. Like they were like, Daniel Craig, like that guy from Love Actually, that guy that was in the weird British crime drama, Layer Cake. Like he wasn't a bankable star. So I had some deep cuts, and I wish I had. Now that I saw your face on Henry Golding, I wish I had gone on some of those deep cuts of the British actors. Oh my God, wasted opportunity.
Like, cool. Never would have thought of him.
All right, guys, I got to jump. Mikal, this has been awesome, bro. Good luck tomorrow. See you soon.